So I'm Tom Douthit. My background is in law and in environmental and regional planning. I study how institutions and regulation work in environmental and planning decision-making through the use of social network analysis and collaboration research, especially in applied watershed contexts. Developed a methodology, which I'll talk a little bit later, called NATE. I also studied land use regulation and environmental problems, and I've seen a lot of echoes in that in these presentations. I also have work that uses spatial analysis and modeling methods involving things such as albedo, evacuation zones, land use, and industry response to storms and shocks. Getting into this, when we look at some of our data, we have policy and planning first. We need structured decision-making data, and we have environmental layers and we have social layers. We also often leave out land use rules, and these are important when we look at the outcomes of many different events, such as harmful algal blooms, or when we look at such events such as the flooding and where it occurred and who was affected. When we look at this article from the Advocate, they're talking about subdivisions approved. Well, where and how subdivisions are approved are a function of our land use regulation. But land use rules are infrequently used explicitly in spatial and socioecological environmental modeling or decision-making because they're fragmented, hard to pin together, but that doesn't mean that they're not important. They affect what gets built, where, and how. So we're trying to create a system to normalize land use development rules across regions in Louisiana. This is an example of zoning normalization based on density. And then they can be these rules can be variables in our socioecological models. We can overlay them with flood data, other landscape data to inform our decision making. Likewise, systems of plans are fragmented but form a key part of self-organizing systems of socioecological governance. And we focus on analyzing local and regional plans and sort of conceptualizing them and connecting them as networks. And we do this through taking plans, extracting relational data from them using content evaluation in vivo and other methods, and then exporting those and putting those into either spatial or network analysis software. This is kind of a workflow we're working on. We're doing it especially for watershed hazards in the region, but it has other applications in the plans we collect. You can apply to do content analysis for other environmental themes. And so when we look at that in the context of the Louisiana Watershed Initiative in Region 7, which is a collaborator of ours, we're sort of pulling out actor networks as a first example. We pull out these actor networks and we have to develop and use methodologies to understand the governance structures and patterns within these larger networks. And one thing we can show quite clearly is that local decision-making around environmental and watershed planning is highly fragmented if there's not a regional or state federal intermediary. So email me if you have interest in land use regulation, adaptation and resilience planning, regional planning institutions, land use change and its interconnections with socioecological systems. And I'm also trying to get better at a sort of tidyverse approach to everything we do in our lab. So thank you.